I got my, I have about 6 questions formed, and I'll put that down for sure. All right?
Okay, Lynn.
Oh, I know.
Testing. Oh,
Yep. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's workshop for September 26, 2023. It will be a transportation workshop. All board members are here except for Member Hahn. She's not here today. And I will go ahead and hand it over to you, Superintendent Ayers. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming today.
Thank you, Chair Combs, and it's a pleasure to bring this workshop this morning. Board Member Vaughn sits on our Metropolitan Planning Organization, and we've tried to get this workshop scheduled here. It's been a few months trying to get it scheduled, but opportunity to have this workshop this morning, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over at this time to Chris Farkas, our Deputy Superintendent over Operations.
Thank you, Superintendent Ayers and Board. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about transportation. It is, for those of us that getting here and every single morning, this is the topic that is right in our heart and something we spend a lot of time in cars with. But that being said, we're going to cover a couple different areas. Lisa Silva, who works in the Transportation Planning Organization, TPO, is here to talk a little bit about a study that I think is important. It was presented to the MPO, presented to the County Commission, and Lisa's going to make sure that you have the same information. That'll be followed by Laura Hill, our General Manager of Transportation, to talk a little bit more specifically about Hillsborough County and what we're doing, and then we'll open up for questions and have that part of it too. But we're going to turn it right over to Lisa now.
Thanks. Okay, hi. I'm Lisa Silva. I'm also a mother that's had a child go through all of your public school systems, so that may cause a conflict of interest or, some experience and credibility. I'm a landscape architect and long-range transportation planner. I do work for the Plan Hillsborough, so and here you can see some images of some field trips that I've made the kids all wear safety vests on in downtown Tampa. When my kid went to Rampello, he converted to e-bike at high school. So we've been through all of the modes. So what is a transportation planning organization? Well, it is long-range planning. What do I mean by long-range planning? 20-year and beyond horizon. And it's federally mandated. So federal and state law require TPOs of communities this size. And so it helps ensure the continuing cooperative and comprehensive planning. We make sure that the community's interests are represented in our planning studies, that their decisions aren't in the back room, et cetera. Our TPO is not just Hillsborough. Hillsborough's in the title, but all 3 cities are part of our TPO, as well as the school district, the port, the airport, the Transportation Expressway Authority, and now a school board member. So, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, I guess we're seeing it, but the world isn't.
It's sending. Jed, do you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Just a troublemaker, that's all.
Do you see it now? All right.
Do you hear me now? Okay. Currently, we're the 16 board membership. Every census, we have to adjust the membership. We're going through that fun process now. A member has been here since February 2015. And so I was deemed to tell you a little bit about the history of school transportation, why we do it, how it all gets made, and the sausage, et cetera. So that's why I'm starting way back. Okay, so I like to blame Kevin O'Hare. At the time, he was a high school student interning at the property appraiser's office, no less, and he sent us a little email during one of our busiest times and said, hey, I'd really like to have my project be coordinating education and transportation. I have all these great ideas. And I'm like, okay. But my boss took on Kevin, and sure enough, he organized an event, invited elected officials, and I'm like, you got them there voluntarily? But yes, they all got in a room and they agreed with him that we could do a much better job coordinating school with transportation. So our board agreed with him, went to work on modifying our bylaws, added a school board member. We think it's kind of the first of its kind in the nation. So we got studied about that at one point by Bellwether Education. So, and then it's the chair's prerogative of the TPO to be able to set up ad hoc committees. He said, oh, this is a brand new topic. We agree there's lots to coordinate. Let's set up a school transportation working group. It was chaired by the first school board member on our TPO, Cindy Stewart. We began monthly meetings from April of 2016. We sunsetted in December of 2018. And then we did a transition I'll tell you a little bit more about in a minute. So the why was pretty obvious. You have the 7th largest school district in the United States. We have, you are the largest employer, so we can feel it when you guys are in session and not. You transport more people by bus than our transit agency by a lot. And we have one of the longest commutes in the nation. Unfortunately, we lead the nation in fatalities of bicycles and pedestrians, as well as vehicles in many instances. And the TPO has many committees. We have a bicycle pedestrian committee, we have a local roadways committee, we have a technical committee, citizens committee, et cetera, but none that were specific to school, although we had a couple of school staff participate in our technical advisory committee. So the TPO, given its 4 jurisdiction regional approach, was decided to be the logical host. So we went to work in forming the committee, setting out our outcomes and purpose. We wanted to look at the big picture, bring everybody to the table, start a dialogue, identify the issues, prioritize the issues, and then try to tackle some of them. Of course, being our planning selves, we said, let's make sure we at least have engineering, education, encouragement, enforcement, equity, and evaluation at the table. So you'll see many of those members, but you also see different ones like health department and the PTA and some of the hospitals and stuff that participated. So we had a broad perspective. I can tell you I learned a lot because just even having the school district represented there, I'm like, okay, transportation I had worked with, but the security and the curriculum and the magnet and school choice and, the superintendent decision-making processes and stuff and the anomaly of charter schools were all a very much a learning experience for all of us. So very similar to today's layout. We had everybody at the table in one big room at County Center, and it was important. I found it really was very effective having the school board member chair that working group. When the boss is at the table, we have great attendance and participation, and decisions get made right then and there instead of like, oh, let's apply that and go ask somebody, et cetera. So, and it was great we learned about some different parent groups along the way and included them. We had lots of successes. I'm limited on time. Chris will give me the evil eye if I list all of them, but some big topics we tackled over the years while we were meeting were the non-funded busing, aka courtesy. The bell times shifted. A lot of these efforts, to not have an outcry from the community required some outreach and education, and the TPOs, set up to do exactly that. So we helped provide a lot of outreach, and then the TPO brought planning dollars to the table. Since we had identified many of the issues were related to getting to and from and the infrastructure around and surrounding schools, we sponsored a school transportation study, and then we helped with the transition from this working group to the other entities. So I'll tell you a little bit what is in a school transportation safety study. Well, first we were we used the district to do a big survey, and we were very impressed at the feedback. We're not used to getting so much response from the community, but your mechanisms to communicate with parents and guardians is stellar, and we really appreciate it. But one disturbing thing that I in particular was like, what? Over half said your school does not support or encourage walking and biking to and from school. And we even learned of some schools required a permission form to be signed by the parent before they would allow the children to walk or bike to school. One school even issued punishment. They had detention for the first offense and suspension for the second. So I'm very pleased to say we altered that policy, and so that is not in place anymore. But diving into the study itself, we layered the 2-mile walking distance defined in the hazardous walking conditions statute with the school boundaries, then evaluated the crashes specific to school-age children on school days and hours, added in the free and reduced lunch to throw some equity, et cetera, in there, and then came up with engineering recommendations. So you see things like crosswalk enhancements, maybe speed tables, light timing, light signal timing, signage, et cetera, were all part of that study, available on our website. So you're like, why is she covering Vision Zero? Well, Vision Zero is a strategy to eliminate all roadway fatalities and serious injuries while increasing safety, health, and equity and mobility for everyone. So everyone includes those students, and it was happening kind of parallel while we were doing all the work for the school transportation effort. So you'll see, I'm going to highlight some of the great partnerships with Vision Zero, and it's a great tool that I continue to use in the toolbox to get school studies recommendations implemented. At the time when we introduced it, all our jurisdictions quickly adopted resolutions, including the school board at that time, yay. But nobody wanted to step up and lead it, so it's kind of a little odd for a long-range transportation agency to do that, but we became the first TPO to do that in the country and got it adopted, which it was designed as 4 tracks. Education and outreach portion, consistent affairs, kind of our enforcement arm. These are like, terms that the public can embrace, and good. Paint Saves Lives, you'll see a lot of that we used in and around schools, and the future will not be like the past. So that's like changing our technical manuals and how we design the roads and stuff so that we can have a different future. In the Paint Saves Lives track, there's like quick fix, pop-up engineering solutions, low cost, so we can get out there and make a difference quickly. We do not have a magic bucket of money either, so we're always struggling with funding issues. So you see some of the efforts here. We had some bumper, you see I Brake for Chiefs. We were giving those out at different schools. We did some leading pedestrian intervals in and around some schools so that pedestrians, the children, get a head start so the car can see them if they're turning while they're using the crosswalk. Your art programs helped us design these traffic signal wraps. We went out and did sign waving at certain high injury network corridors along in and in front of schools. Okay, so then we had to offer all that work, of 9 years. It's been 9 years. I counted today. I'm like, oh my. We said, oh, hey, I learned of the Community Traffic Safety Team at the Department of Transportation's Tampa offices, and many of the people that were coming downtown for the school transportation working group were attending that meeting. I'm like, oh, hey, I don't like extra meetings either. How about this might be a great logical place to help transition some of the school coordination and keep the momentum going. So they said, yes, enforcement people are at the table, school district people have to be at the table if they want to qualify for safe routes to school grants, etc. I was at the table, so they agreed. And so now school transportation is a recurring line item on their agenda so that they stop and discuss what's going on and the details and the weeds of school transportation issues. Then at the school district, an internal circulation committee was developed. So all the right people are brought in. They address the concerns elevated from principals and parents, and the jurisdictions, can go there. And so if the school is along a Department of Transportation road, DOT staff come. If it's along a city roadway, city staff come. And so they rotate and go through that. And they use the results of that first school study, which had done details in and around 12 schools. We did road safety audits and recommendations for the top 12 most dangerous schools. So they started chipping away on their portions of that and coordinating with the local jurisdictions on their portions of the recommendations. So they track and address that monthly. Yay. So Vision Zero Action Plan was adopted, as I mentioned. Then Lisa Silva has to go to work on implementing it through various studies. Because of who I am and how passionate I am for school student safety, I kind of bake in all the school stuff and everything that I do. So our Safe Access to Parks study happened to pick Copeland was one of the schools. I'm like, oh, Shaw Elementary's next door. Let's kind of hook that in there, consultant. Let's get recommendations for both. Caused a lot of great synergy there. City of Tampa came, and that first study, we ranked all the schools. Many of the schools in the top of that prioritization ranking spreadsheet are City of Tampa. Not because they do a poor job, but City of Tampa is our oldest portion of the community. So if you think about South Tampa, that it's built for a horse and buggy. It doesn't have sidewalks and stuff. Very narrow, very constrained. So it just naturally ranked high. So they have a lot of needs. Hillsborough County contacted me as soon as it's over, and they got all our GIS mapping, all of our spreadsheets, and they went to work and pulled out all the other jurisdictions and started tackling all theirs and their Safe Routes to Schools initiative. So the city asked for some additional help because they hadn't been working on that. They're like, oh, we could use a little more. So came to the TPO to study the next several on their school list, which I'll get to in a minute. Then Mayor Jane Castor was elected, and she did embrace and say, yes, I'm for Vision Zero. She joined the Vision Zero Network as one of her first things. Coincidentally, the National Safe Routes to School Conference was in town. We were presenting the great work of the School Transportation Working Group there. So she directed her staff to go out and do the first ever Crosswalks to Classroom here right in front of Rampella. You probably saw it since it's across from your administration building. And at the unveiling of that first crosswalk, she had a press release and embraced and endorsed Vision Zero. So City of Tampa has their own action plan. So building on the first study, we took the list and reprioritized it based on current data when we kicked off this 2022 adopted version of the Tampa School Study. So everybody got the updated list, all 4 jurisdictions, but then we zoomed in on 8 specific schools for City of Tampa, and I'll walk you through some of what goes into developing that. Learning from the previous time and knowing there's no magic bucket to get all the engineering solutions implemented right away. In fact, we found our old schools still at the top of the list because it takes a while to find the funding and to construct the recommendations. So we had added an encouragement and education strategies. We're like, hey, that can go a little farther, faster. So we added that to this version of school study. But it again identified the physical transportation improvements in and around and connecting to the schools. I mentioned that, okay, and it was broken into tasks. Again, we don't do this just back at County Center. We assembled a stakeholder group of school district staff and health professionals, and enforcement and professionals, et cetera. We did the survey again, so you're going to see some of the highlights of that survey district-wide. Thank you again for disseminating that. Updated the list, as I mentioned. Studied Safe Routes programs nationwide to steal best practices from other areas. And then, okay, so we look at a lot of things when we do it. As I mentioned, the crash data, the equity concerns, location, enrollment size, the type of school. Some magnets aren't appropriate to study because there are no bikers and walkers within the 2-mile radius, et cetera, because it's just a different type of school. All right. So this was our list. So Shaw and Blake and Orange Grove, Just, West Tampa Elementary, Stewart, Potter, and Jefferson. I understand Just Elementary is going to close or has closed. So, it's always good to keep these communication things open so we are always with the latest, greatest data when we're doing these projects. So we had 10,000 responses in what we call the family survey, the types of schools, their top issues that affect how they choose to walk or bike or not. Again, all this is in a very detailed report on our website, so I'm just hitting it. Distance was one of them. We broke it into types of schools, what affects their ability, and the type of school, COVID had just lifted, so we're like, well, did this change things a lot? As planners, we were interested. Interestingly, we found some things were a little higher and some things were a little lower, so it was not a big significant shift. So that was nice to know. We asked everybody about the different resources and strategies they use so we could share and steal them with others, and then some resources that they wish they could have. You'll see like cones and walkie-talkies and stuff. There's some like low-cost things that could help benefit them. This time, we also surveyed all of the principals and administrators. We did find that they had an express interest in having a study in and around their school. They told us about their, walking population, not surprising, their drop-off issues and unapproved things. Here's a word cloud of the principals' results. Not surprisingly, school circulation at the top. So here's the resources one, cones, the movable barriers. Some schools had more of it and others. Some were in poor condition or missing. Parent cooperation, misbehaving parents are an issue, surprisingly. Here's some of the fun photos. No study that we do would be incomplete without a field review. So we're out there, Mike, you can even see the cones are just splatted. I call it cone fatalities because they were so old and crumbly that when someone ran them over, they just disintegrated. Some sidewalks were fenced. I'm like, oh, if we could just get the school district to shift the fence, then the sidewalk could be open all the time and not be reliant on a human to go unlock it during release, and just some things. So all those recommendations are in the study. We studied the bus strategies. Love your new app. Here comes the bus. I'm hoping it will diminish the car line when people get familiar and reliant on it. We color-coded our recommendations. Some are informational, some are speed-related, some are engineering solutions, some are behavior. Reviewed them in a little workshop with your principals. Really appreciate their feedback because they know things about their school we could never know, and no matter how many times we visit it. They're all developed into a recommendation. Here you'll see we've got the car line at West Tampa Elementary, recommending maybe some improvements in a four-way stop sign. We love that they closed the school streets in and around the school to vehicular traffic, and so only buses are allowed and humans in that area approaching the school. We call that school streets, kind of an open streets concept. So we'd like to see more of that embraced and rolled out citywide. So, and then I had an Eagle Scout approach me and say, hey, I'd really like to implement the recommendation for painting the car line, or they wanted to do a painted crosswalk or something. And I said, okay, well, let's pick a good one. So I end up, they've chosen West Tampa Elementary. They're going to paint the car line with what I call puppy paws and the little greyhound mascot in a way that's city approved. They've been through permitting, and they have the cities scheduled for October 21st. Mark your calendars, you want to come out and see it. So, we're supporting an Eagle Scout with her project and getting a little portion of the school recommendations implemented. I mean, that's great. So, okay, we went out and we met with lots of people, and they're like, the principals, they have to know testing and all the other things that you guys require of them. They don't always know, oh, I have this tree limb blocking the flashing light and stuff. I don't know who to contact. And then they contact a few people, and it's not the right people, and you get thwarted. It's hard. So we developed this, who do you call? And we're like, oh, wouldn't this be great if the school district took this and made magnets for their filing cabinets or a poster or something, because it's current as of the development of the study. If you want a educational presentation for a PTA or an assembly, we got all the people that all our advocacy groups are listed there. If you have an issue with your roadway or a crossing guard, it tells you who to call and how to reach them and stuff. So this is one of those educational and encouragement upgrades that we did with this study. Here's another one. We have these yard signs. So we have ones trying to bring awareness to the drivers flying by that this is a special area and to expect students. So there's some different designs. I posted some in front of Alonzo. The Sidewalk Stompers and Grady Elementary PTA posted some the beginning of school in front of Grady. So they're available in a closet downtown that I will give them to you. Here's some bigger ideas that were district-wide. We're like, it'd be really great if there were a transportation planner position at the school district. You have great staff, but they've got lots of topics to coordinate all the time. It's a little hard to get these things moving and keep the momentum. So that, in a dream world, that'd be great. We discovered your green team, so we've been collaborating with them because we have sustainability besides the bike stuff to offer. Vision Zero ambassadors with your youth. It'd be really great if people got trained to go out and empower people like I'm doing today. We have a geofencing project going on where you get like little messages pop up on your cell phone if you traverse near a school zone, maybe to remind you of the rules, ask you to take a survey. We're doing that on some high injury networks and testing it out currently. Yay, speed enforcement actually got addressed in the legislation last session. So that one we can kind of go check. And the automated enforcement of the bus passing also. I already mentioned the school streets, and then we discovered portable speed bumps. So we're like, oh, Amazon has them for sale. We can kind of go out and test some of these more expensive solutions before you actually implement them and find the funding. Maybe looking at your magnet school busing comprehensively. So those are some big ideas that are in there. Get another plug to Sidewalk Stompers. They were very instrumental even in the scope development of this project. They do amazing things. Their growth has been exponential just for Walk to School Day, which again, get your little calendars out. October 4th, right around the corner is Walk and Roll to School Day. And they have over 30 schools participating this year. There were only 10 last year. That is big growth. So they're just like growing like leaps and bounds. So they'd love to see you at one of them. Here's some of you. I got to see you when we were out doing the Potter Elementary implementation. Again, at East Tampa CRA, got a hold of our study. They read it, like, hey, there's some good ideas. And some of those schools are in our district. You know, we'd like to learn and partner on how to do a crosswalk. And I'm like, well, bring it on. So they did the work. I just paid for the paint, and it was a beautiful day. We love principals that participate in our efforts. It makes things so much easier with all of these advocacy efforts. Shameless plug, our agency hosts a Future Leaders in Planning. High school students are allowed to participate, and it's like a 3-day course. We do mobile workshops, charrettes, they build models. It's fun and exciting. Then Flip Junior is when we go out and visit summer camps. So like Tampa Heights, they have us come be speakers on safety. Sometimes we help them implement one of the mural projects or community garden, etc. So, and then no presentation would be complete with, oh, those are all really great ideas, Lisa, but how do we implement them? Where do we get the money? And so Tampa, I stole this from City of Tampa because they like OPM, other people's money. So they come to us for the planning studies. And we've been going to the federal to get some money. So some successes in the past study, we all were at that table. I told you, working together. We got some state roads or Safe Routes to School grant money for Sulphur Springs. Now that's being leveraged by the City of Tampa for a Sulphur Springs neighborhood plan. We reflected the recommendations in that safe access to park study when Sulphur Springs Pool was a part of that study. So again, knowing all this and leveraging and building on it and having me bake schools into everything I do. Then kind of little bragging rights here. The federal Safe Streets for All grants had money nationally. They put out the thing. Because we had done all these planning efforts that I illustrated for you today, we were very successful in what we were given. So there were only 3 implementation grants given to the state of Florida. 2 are for Tampa and unincorporated Hillsborough. Of the dollars, there's $67 million, $40 million's coming right here to our county. Both the City of Tampa and unincorporated Hillsborough each got 20 million-ish of that $67 million. They have, in their successful application, they put the Vision Zero action plan, followed by the implementation studies of the safe access to parks, the 2 school studies, et cetera, because safety and equity were baked right in, which were requirements of this grant. We were right up to the top. We didn't even get an action plan grant because we've already done our action plan. So very fortuitous to get that money. And then, as Ms. Vaughn will know, when we go and do our long-range transportation plan updates and our transportation improvement program, which is the every year update of that, plan with our 5-year work program, safety is like right under maintenance of roadways. So because Vision Zero and safety are right in there, we stick all of our school recommendations in there, and they rank very highly. So that's another way we attempt to get these things implemented over time. Okay, I'll stop talking.
Thank you so much, Ms. Silva. You did a phenomenal job. It was great, very informative. Thank you. Okay. And what we'll do is we'll continue the presentations, and then that way everybody will get time to ask the questions. So we'll continue.
We'll transition to the next presentation. Much less slides, a little shorter on that one too. No, that will not happen. I don't have that part too. The first couple slides are basic, but just for the good of the order. Hillsborough County Transportation Department is huge, and sometimes we lose how big we are and how many employees work there and how many dedicated professionals we have. We operate over 900 school buses. In addition to the ones that are there, we have our bus drivers, our attendants, our mechanics, support staff, planners, routers, administration that works in that part too. Communication with schools and parents is a big part of what they do, and that's where we start. So we have a big task in front of us. So what are our challenges? Some of it's the same thing that you guys face. The high volume of daily routes and bus stops, traffic congestion, unpredictable road conditions, school bus drivers and staff shortages, and then communication and coordination. And we're going to talk about how we address kind of each one of those and what that looks like. So a little bit about the 30,000-foot conversation, which is about legislation. How does that impact what we're doing? As you know, and we're going to talk about some of the changes that have taken place, there's been rules, and Ms. Silva kind of referenced it, that Tallahassee took some action. There's 2 different rules that are specific to us, and we're going to talk about 4 of them. But one is about school zones and making sure that you have cameras to look at school zones and give out cameras that would be more similar to like red light cameras. But there's also a school bus passing, which is when the arm's out and having buses putting cameras on buses. That'll be a big part of what we've done. And we're going to talk about those. But one of the things that we've talked about from putting on the platform is, right now it's to go towards school bus safety, and that's great. And we'll use once that gets implemented, we'll be able to do some things on the buses about flashing lights and making sure that everyone can see them. But one of our priorities is going to be, let's use that towards transportation in general. Having more qualified bus drivers, using that towards salaries and things like that are going to be a big part of us being successful going forward. So that's what you're going to see us kind of push. Ms. Davis has been great. We've had a lot of buy-in from both board members and from local constituents that feel like that's a pretty good idea and good use of those funds. So that's kind of where we're going to push. That will help us attract. We've heard a lot of talk about these 4 topics, or at least the first one, HB1, school choice, the school bus passing, speed detection, school zones, and school start times. Let's go through those real quick. School choice, we've talked a lot about HB1. There are a couple things in HB1 that apply to transportation. Basically, it says that you can take more than school buses and use them to transport kids. Right now, the current federal law still prohibits 15-passenger vans, the old vans that used to get the big white vans and get everybody into. We still cannot use those. But we can use 10-passenger, minivans, things like that to go and transport that. We've used that already for both ESE populations and homeless populations because it makes sense, the greater distance to drive, and there's be more specificity around pickup and drop-off. They also said you can use smaller buses, but you still have to have a CDL. So if you have CDL is one of our challenges in going through that process. So even though we can use smaller buses, they still have to have a CDL. School bus passing laws are a big part. This is something that is on the school district, the sheriff's department, and the county to work on. We've already had many conversations. Ms. Davis, as you know, keeps us all in the loop of what that looks like. So Laura and I have met with not just vendors, but also local constituents, the sheriff, to talk about how do we implement this and what does this look like. It allows us to collaborate with local authorities and talk about a citation system. It imposes a $200 fine that goes to pay for the system, small fee that comes back, and the district gets some of that money as well. So long story short, they're going to put a camera on the side of a bus, and when the arm's out, if someone passes that bus, a package gets put together to the sheriff's department, and their ticket gets out of that. Now, the ticket is not for points. It's a citation that goes towards the car, not the person driving it. So it is. We see that it looks like it's going to be a very positive thing for us as we go forward. Right now, we're currently having those conversations of what that looks like. In fact, as of this morning, we got some direction from the state about where it can go on buses, and because they control that, as you all know, what it looks like and where those are placed on buses. So we are down that road and look forward to bringing to the board. School Bus Safety Week is in October. We're hoping that by that date, we've kind of set our own self-imposed deadline of making sure we bring that to you and say, hey, let's get this in place before the School Bus Safety Week goes. Another part of that is speed detection in school zones. And this allows the county to put in school detection systems, cameras, to talk about 30 minutes before breakfast program starts until after school, $100 citation for anything over 10 miles an hour. It's another program the county is working on right now. We've met with the county and the county attorneys to talk about how they're going to implement that. It's not quite on us, but it's going to affect and make our kids safer, which is the entire purpose of what we're doing. Start times. For those of you that have been around for a few years, you've seen the fun that we had a few years back in changing our start times, and everyone told us how crazy we were. Now Florida statute has now said that maybe we weren't so crazy and we hit this, so now we don't have to make any changes, thank goodness. So the start times are going to be a big part of what we do. Sorry, take it a second. Start times are a big part of what we do. We had to make no changes. I've gotten calls from at least 5 or 6 other people in my position in large districts in Florida. How did you guys do this? So we've sent some of our information on how to do that. For those of you that weren't here, we did a lot of work, pre-work. We met with committees, met with principals, met with parents, met with kids about what that looked like to change those start times, but we were able to make that change so there's not a large lift right now as there was back then. We're in compliance with that law as of now. And now let Ms. Hill cover the fun topics.
Okay. So I was going to talk briefly about the transportation driver shortage that we're facing. As you guys know, I'm sure this is a nationwide issue. It's not unique to Hillsborough County. So what we're doing, I wanted to give you an update on some things that we're doing in transportation to try to help with that. We are having job fairs, 2 to 3 a month. We've also partnered with community agencies, getting our information out there to see what we can do to get on piggyback on their job fairs. We also are doing some innovative ideas within transportation, doing what we are going to call is a bus attendant pipeline for our current employees who are bus attendant riders that are interested in becoming a school bus driver. They are going to go through, we're offering classes for them to come in between their bus routes to learn about how to become a bus driver so that they're getting information straight from us. We also have explored collaborating with other districts on what they're doing to combat the driver shortage, and we're working together as a unit in the state on what we can do together. We have some meetings with that. I wanted to tell you, thank you. He's going to do the slides. I wanted to thank you. These are the salaries of surrounding districts. I wanted to recognize the board item that you all are putting forward to increase the driver salary. We're not quite there, as you can see, but I'm so thankful that you took that and are going to take a good look at our driver salary. That really helps put us in the market with recruiting, because we were at $16.04 an hour for a new driver. So you can see that was a little hard for someone to come work for us at that rate when surrounding districts were paying so much more. Currently, we have over 250 routes that are vacant. With that kind of shortage, that's every single day shortage planned that we just don't have. That doesn't include the routes where the drivers are off because they're sick. We have an additional 50 to 60 of those on top of this 250 vacancies. I just shared with you some of the recruiting things that we're doing. Since July of last year, we hired 36 new drivers, and 18 of those are returning drivers. So we're using that data to use some metrics to see how we can start recruiting and hiring more this year. Here Comes the Bus has been a very tremendous communication help for our parents. We have over 36,000 subscribers currently. So those parents were able to track the bus and see when the bus would be close to their child's bus stop and not be waiting out for a late bus. So we've gotten a lot of good feedback on that. The second addition to Here Comes the Bus is the RFID student attendance cards. Our FEFP survey week will be beginning in a couple of weeks. We wanted to launch those cards for students that whenever they get on the bus, it takes their attendance. It also gives parents transparency to know when their child is actually on the school bus and then what time their child arrived at the school. So we're looking to get that out to the students pretty soon. Parents do have an option to opt out of the cards if they do not want their child to swipe on or off the bus. Then, of course, our bus drivers would just take the attendance of that child. Back to Mr. Farkas.
The next one is mine. I think sometimes we talk about perspective. So let's talk numbers of what this looks like. Hillsborough County is the largest transporter of students in the state of Florida. I mean, and the next closest is Broward, and it's over 13,000 kids less than we transport every single day. Why is that possible? How is it? You got Miami-Dade. Almost every other large district has other vehicles. They get people there, and vehicles, no pun intended. They've got mass transit, they've got trains, they've got buses that do it. Almost every student in Miami-Dade that's in a magnet program rides mass transit, rides public transportation. Every student. And so it is a big difference that we have in that part of it too. We have been very efficient. Mr. Beekman, Ms. Hill, following up on that too, are very efficient in our routes, making sure that our buses are optimized, that we spend less money than other districts do to do the exact same job. So unfunded drivers or riders, it's a topic that got a lot of attention around it. We still have a bunch of those that are at the elementary level. We looked at middle and high school. We have not done it at elementary. We have the highest number of unfunded riders at over 13,000. The second closest is Palm Beach, which has just over 4,000, just as a reference point for that. You also, and Ms. Silva, talked about HART and what we look at. HART counts every single trip. We transport about 80,000 kids, but that's twice a day, in between 80 and 90,000. If you take our number and double it, as opposed to just counting as one trip, they're 1/4 the size of what we are in the HART buses. So we are 4 to 5 times larger than the mass transit of what that looks like. So one of the topics that comes up with that is hazardous walking. The 2-mile walking, and you guys hear a lot of that as board members, because that is one that, whether it affects you personally or there's a constituent in your neighborhood that's at 1.9, those are the calls that we all get on that part too. What does that look like, and how does that work? It's very strict in what 2 miles are. Our group is very good if we hear that. Hey, we think we're at 199. We think we're over on GPS that shows this. We literally go out with a wheel and walk it if that's what we need to be. So we review those. It just happened. I had one of the reviews literally last week. Laura and I found one that was 1.99 listed, and it was right at 2.0. And if it's close like that, if it's at 2.0, we do include them because that is funding. The state funds us for 2.0 and further. So what if we just said, hey, we heard it from Ms. Silva, we hear it from constituents, it's safer to be on a bus. We agree 100%. It is safer to be on a bus. Let's take away the 2 miles. Let's bus everybody. Everybody that's eligible, let's bus them for what that looks like. What would that look like? There'll be 2 costs. The first cost is going to be $149 million for new buses that we need that part of it too. There would be a one-time cost then replaced after 10 to 15 years. But there'd be $77 million that we'd have to have an operational cost every single year to make that work. We'd have to add 850 additional drivers. Now, we're supposed to have 900. We only have 600. We'd have to add 850 additional drivers to that 900 to make that work with an additional 34 mechanics. Again, we're all for that. We just want the board to make sure they know the perspective of, hey, if we give away and say, hey, we're not going to do any walking, we're going to transport everyone, there's some huge, huge groups that we would have to talk about and what that looks like. So how does that break down? I know it's very small. You've got it in front of you. But we broke it down to, what if we just went from 2 miles to 1.5? What if we went from 1.5 to 1 to 0.5, and then 0.5 to 0? We listed those costs for you. How many kids are in each one of those that fit in that category? There's over 56,000 elementary kids, over 12,000 high and middle school kids that have fit into that category. But we wanted to make sure you guys had specificity around numbers and what that looked like. The other big topic besides walking to school that you guys get is circulation. It's crowded. I can't get in my neighborhood because everyone's backed up. We have seen more parents drive their kids to school than ever before. That's just the reality of what we've seen even in the last 10 years. So what do we do? How does that work? What's the easiest way to do that? Well, I have 2 answers to that. The first one is, as soon as the Bucks cannot have backup on Dale Mabry, we won't have backup at school. Some of it's not realistic. If you're going to put 3,800 kids at Sumner High School, there's no way that we can have all that circulation on campus. It's just not realistic, and it's not fair to ask us to do that. But that being said, we want to do everything we can to be partners with the county. We've got a couple of really successful stories that have come out of the School Transportation Working Group, and I'll give you a couple quick examples. Hunters Green Elementary is right on Cross Creek and then backs up into Hunters Green, the neighborhood. There's no backup area. The spot was literally a 1/4 of a mile, but there's so many kids, of the 1,000 kids that are there that are parent drop-offs, that it became a big issue. So we partnered with the county, got the county together, the city. That is the one place where you've got a crossroads of city, county, all right next to one another. We put in a paved area back into Hunters Green. There's a little bit of a backup there, but the reality is it is 100 times better than it ever was before and had a positive impact. And that is an example of all the different municipalities coming together and finding an answer. Another great example of that is what we've done at Progress Village in Lamb. Progress Village and Lamb, as you know, are right next to one another. We built Lamb right next to Progress Village. We partnered with the city and the county and said, hey, how can we make this work? The county actually funded part of it. We funded part of it and connected those loops. So now both the elementary school and the middle school could use the same loop, because obviously they're at different times. Takes off the street, because in Progress Village was a huge problem. There was literally cars blocking driveways. People couldn't get to work because there's so many people backed up, and we've alleviated those problems. That being said, it's always a challenge. There are places that we can't fix it. We don't have enough room on campus, so there's not enough room in the streets. We will continue to work with people and do what we can to promote people walking and biking to school. But as long as we have this many parents dropping off their kids at school, there's going to be some challenges that go with circulation. So if I've got a challenge or I've got an issue or a board member, a constituent calls you, what do you do? So we have a process in place. Out of the School Transportation Working Group is a circulation committee. That is with outside entities, law enforcement, internal transportation, internal safety and risk management, and internal maintenance, and Ben Moore's crew. So Shirley Reddy is our transportation specialist, goes out to the site. I'm at elementary school A. I think I've got a problem. We go make that assessment. We bring it back to the committee and say, hey, what are our options and what can we do with that? And that group of internal and external stakeholders talk about what that looks like and what the answer is. They come back and say, hey, Chris, this is how much it's going to cost, is the end product of what that solution is, of their solution. And we try to do everything we can to make that work. It's important for the board to know SREF, our school requirements for educational facilities, says we can't have school bus traffic and parent pickup traffic cross internally. They have to stay separate as they go to that part, which is one of our challenges for pickup and drop off. Almost done. 2 more slides. So what are our action steps to look at? And Lisa talked a little bit about this. One of them is making sure that we look at doing more studies. We've got a lot of studies inside the city limits, as Lisa said, because of the traffic that's there. But how do we do that and make it a wider county? And then one of the big pushes that Ms. Vaughn had, I couldn't agree more with her, is about earmarking money. We hear about sidewalks and safety and what that looks like. How do we make sure that when we find a situation like this, we've got the support and the finance to support what that looks like and how we can make sure that we make the circulation safe? The county right now is in the same situation we were 6 years ago. They don't have enough money. They just don't. And so trying to do sidewalks and things like that are a big challenge to make sure that happens. The last one we have is crossing guards. So the Sheriff's Department handles crossing guards. I think all 7 of you know that, but just for public comment, they handle that. Mr. Culpepper is the one that is the liaison with there. He talks to them on a regular basis, to their liaison, and we try to make sure we work through that stuff. But the Sheriff's Department ultimately is there. They hire them, they train them, they pay them, and that part of it too. They decide whether a crossing guard is going to go in there. We've seen some cases where we've had to work with them up at Bryant and some of the other fun places we've had in the northwest side of Hillsborough. But we have a good relationship with them. It doesn't mean we always agree, but the big part is bringing people to the table for dialogue. So we have covered a ton of information and a ton of topics. I realize that, and we've kind of drinking through a water hose, but we wanted to make sure that we gave you as much information as possible. At this time, any of the 3 of us would be happy to answer any questions we have, Superintendent, and we appreciate the leniency and time with us giving a little bit longer presentation than normal.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank Member Vaughn, especially because she's been very patient wanting to bring this transportation and really working with us. And I know she's worked very, very hard with the TPO. But I do want to thank, before we go on to questions, I want to thank each and every one of you. This is a very, very great comprehensive summary, and I appreciate you taking the time to summarize that today. So we'll go ahead and get started. I know we'll start with Member Vaughn, and if you could just motion to Mr. Porter if you want to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, I echo my chairwoman's sentiments about thank you so much for the hard work. Ms. Silva, no one is as passionate as you are around school safety, and every time I talk to you, it's such a pleasure to see someone who's so passionate and dedicated to that. So I appreciate you coming and all the work and advocacy that you do. And as well as this presentation, I know transportation can be really overwhelming. It's so big and it's so multifaceted that it's hard to kind of start if you're not that familiar with what we need to focus on. I really appreciate, and what I think is important for board members to understand, the slides that illustrate who do you call when you have an issue, because it is so complex. We have multiple municipalities, whether it's the city or the county or us, trying to manage safety around schools and transportation, that a lot of times for me as a board member, it feels like whack-a-mole, like, okay, who's going to handle this problem? Whose responsibility is this? How do we get this fixed? So I really appreciate the slides that are both helpful for at the school level. Who do you call if you have issues? I think that was 41 on Ms. Silva's slide, page 41. And I love that idea about maybe making a poster or magnets to kind of help our actual employees at the school site get that. And then I appreciate from our end really trying to understand in the slide that came from Mr. Farkas and Ms. Hill's team about what the circulation committee does and what that looks like as a board member trying to help. For me, some of my biggest frustration as I hear a lot around, one, school zones. We were talking about how, now we're talking about enforcing fines for people who are speeding in school zones, or how we've talked about how alleviating some of the transportation stress of parent pickup by encouraging our families to walk in school zones. However, I have schools that can't get zoned as a school zone, even though they are schools. You mentioned Hunter's Green and how we've helped with the circulation problems there. However, we can't get the support that it needs to even be designated as a school zone. And as you know, Cross Creek is so intensive. There have been so many accidents on that road. It's a busy, busy, busy road. And I've, since last October, been trying to work on this. And it's gone to the city, who said it was the county, back to the city, who then basically said they didn't have the money and it wasn't in their budget to make it a school zone. So if we're talking about collecting revenue by enforcing speeding in school zones, and we're talking about encouraging students to utilize being able to walk if they're close and they don't have a school zone, so help me understand the process of a school becoming zoned for a school and becoming in a school zone, and why we're having so many obstacles to just getting our school zoned that way.
Unfortunate, but just like hazardous walking conditions is like FS, 1006 point blah, blah, blah. There's one for designating school zones. And it's my understanding in the whole circular loop of emails from the professionals that evaluate that Hunter's Green roadways, both of them that touch the school district, don't qualify by state law to be a school zone, but then they went one further and evaluated the safety concerns, vehicular and walking and biking around there. And there are many techniques that we have in place already, and a small number of walkers and bikers using the crosswalk. And as I mentioned, the schools are ranked in most dangerous to least dangerous order, and Hunter's Green is much lower, fortunately, on the list. So their resources are going towards those top 8 most dangerous schools, and Hunter's Green is not one of them. So they observed there was a lot else they could do at this time, because you do have the full crosswalk and the signal and a lot of things that other schools don't enjoy. So I'm sorry, but that's their answer to that one.
So I would love to, as we move forward next year as a board and we're prioritize our legislative platform, maybe next year, and Chris and I had already talked about this, identify funding to at least make all of our schools school zones, so it doesn't have to be a fight between the municipalities over who's financially liable for that. And maybe the state can come in and make sure that it's a priority that all our schools are designated as school zones and provide funding for that. So I'd love to add that next year to our legislative platform.
Add on that note,
yes,
is that while we were doing the school transportation working group, the law for school zones was updated, and it was determined that the one in Palm Beach was different than the one in Pinellas, was just different than the one in Hillsborough, and that drivers could be perceived as being confused and not knowing they were in a school zone. So they changed law that says all of them have to be uniform statewide, and our jurisdictions with their meager budgets are slowly going through that process to bring the ones that do meet state standards to be designated a school zone, because little tiny neighborhood schools don't need a school zone. All those that are appropriate to be a school zone are being brought up to standards unfortunately, we are behind here in the city of Tampa and stuff. So, yeah.
Okay.
Pushing for the money, we can get that done faster.
Thank you. And then I like how you added this slide, because for me, it's always good when we have a workshop to come out with, as a board, what can we do? Some action items. So possibly adding that to our legislative platform. So at the very least, we have school zones for all of our schools. And then a letter to the county. As we see here, we have a study for our city limits, but for Member Rendon and other members who represent the unincorporated Hillsborough County, how do we get data around safety in schools there? So I had suggested that if we agree as a board, we could write a letter to the county commission asking them to fund a study, a safety study similar to the one that the Tampa prioritized. And you said you had some updates on that, Ms. Silva, when I talked to you about that. So could you give us some updates around that?
Unfortunately, my unincorporated Hillsborough County Public Works people are busy working all the time and always telling me what they're up to, but I have discovered by digging in that they took the results of the first school study and they folded it in their Safe Streets for All grant recommendations. They've also identified in the Board of County Commissioners designated money for the school improvements. So they're slowly working on that. Just the other day, their staff said, "Hey, I hear you have a new list." So I reminded her of where the new reprioritized list is. But that doesn't mean we can't do more, because again, we did 12 and then we've done 8. And as you know, you have over 280 schools. I could be busy till I retire, doing additional studies. If you're going to direct a letter to the BOCC, that'd be great. Brings awareness, because it wouldn't hurt those public works staffs to get a little more love and attention for school issues, and know that you guys are paying attention, and that would be important to you, because that does make a difference. I would encourage you to write a letter to the TPO as well, because as you know, our UPWP, our Unified Planning Work Program, is what funds these studies, and then our TIP, Transportation Improvement Plan, funds the construction of some of them with the little bit of dollars that we control. So if it's the pleasure of the school board to do some additional studies and help accelerate the unincorporated area and/or Plant City or Temple Terrace.
Well, I know we've also had on our legislative platform in the past funding for these types of studies so that we can advocate for transportations as we've needed from the state level, and that hasn't necessarily been successful in our legislative endeavors. So if we could help with our municipalities to get some funding to prioritize school safety and at least have that data so that we can start to have more specific asks and relationships, I think that would be beneficial. So I'd love for my board members at some point to talk about sending a letter to both the TPO and the county commission for further studies in regards to school safety, so we can synthesize that data and make decisions as we go forward. And then I have some other more specific questions about the platform, but the presentation, but I want to give my other board members an opportunity to ask some questions, because I have access to you all the time, so I'll get back in the queue. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. Member Gray?
And I whoops, here we go. I want to thank Lisa Sylvia also for your presentation, and Member Vaughn for bringing this matter up. It really is, and Chris Farkas, you know more than ever, that it's a marriage between or among City Council for the City of Tampa and BOCC. This is all, interconnected. And those conversations, and Superintendent Ayers, I'm sure you're having conversations, because without there's slight funding on their end too, but there is not much funding, attention given on the state level or federal level as it relates to Hillsborough County and us being the largest bus service in the state of Florida, and that's a shame. And to that end, I think legislatively, Ms. Davis, it's very important that you pursue and get us to pursue as a board areas that we can make a little or gain a little bit more funds. All right, the first question I have is, and this is a serious one, when we look at student performance, we're looking at the challenge that kids are not getting to school on time. They're missing first period. Some of these children they're walking to school, yes, but a lot of them are on buses, and that's the reality. And Laura, I know you and I had a great conversation, and I'm so thankful for that conversation, because it gave me a good understanding of what's going on with recruitment. So on an average day, we're maybe 300 less bus drivers. And what's happening is that there are 3 weeks that when a bus driver applies, almost 3 weeks go by before they actually get a paycheck. These bus drivers, anyone who does apply for a job, no doubt need money, and they need it pretty much right away. Our processing takes about 3 weeks to get them processed. I would suggest, and I think, Superintendent Ayers, I think I asked that we speed that up in some fashion because we need to get these folks not only interested, and thank you for the recruitment energies, we need to get them processed. I think that's a common theme that we've had a challenge. Chris, did you want to speak? Go ahead.
We have, and we've spent time with Dr. Whalen's team, and now that Dr. Patton is here, we'll spend more time with her. It is a challenge because it is unique. The time frame between when they actually apply and when they get there is something we focused on. So you are exactly right. We provide CDL training, and they get that. They actually are paid while they're on the clock with us. So making sure that we get that done as quickly as possible and put them in classrooms has been a big part of that focus. But you're right, it is a challenge. They want the check right away, and sometimes there is a time frame between when they actually apply and when they get on there. It's better, but it's definitely something that both the HR team and transportation will work on consistently. I will say there's been renewed conversation and energy around the topic now that Ms. Hill is here. And I mean that is no disrespect to anyone. I just mean that when you have a fresh set of eyes, sometimes you see things a little bit differently. She's been wonderful at making sure that meeting with Ms. Shotwell and the HR team and making sure that we do, and Mr. Horstman, to make sure that we actually are doing things all we can on our side that we do control. We don't control all of it, but we want to make sure we get them in front of people and have that. Another innovative thing that Ms. Hill has done is also our Paris to the classroom. So our bus attendants that ride, let's get them in and make them attendants. They can get checks a lot quicker. They don't have to go through the CDL. And then as they go through it, in between routes, as you know, they do a morning and an afternoon route, we can provide them classes and start that process. And so we get them in the door, because sometimes driving a bus is intimidating. I mean, you've got 50 to 70 kids behind you. It's hard enough to drive the big bus there in traffic in Tampa. So sometimes when you're a bus rider, you realize, hey, it's not that. Most of our kids are pretty good kids, and it's a pretty rewarding thing to be the first person they see in the morning and one of the last things they see as they get off the bus. Field trips, athletic events. It's a great job to have if you have the passion for it. So getting them on as a rider a lot of times actually gets them engaged around it, that it's not as intimidating to ride a bus. So that's another innovative way that we're just starting to now push, and I think we'll see more drivers out of that.
Well, thank you for that. And again, that's a solution-based Superintendent Ayers, that we make that processing time, and with a new person on board with the human resources, I think that will be accomplished. All right. Mr. Farkas, you alluded to the bus safety. Bus safety, the magnet, the ramps, has always been a huge concern of mine as I've served, years on the board. We're talking not only on the bus for discipline situations, but we're talking off the bus. Can you share what we have done in a very more, I want to say, aggressive way to address that?
I don't know if that's the word we want to use.
Aggressive. Yeah.
No, it's fair, though, is making sure that we are proactive in the way we approach it. So we had a plan in place with Magnet. As you know, Magnet has leads and had Magnet APs at one point. But when we put everyone back in the classroom last year, some of those efforts kind of fell by the wayside. We worked with Ms. Burkett and Ms. Fawcett to talk with Bob Cox, who leads kind of our Magnet schools. Hey, how can we get Magnet employees to go out to bus ramps? As you know, we have many of you know, we have 4 Magnet bus ramps. They pick them up at the house, take them, and then it's like a fire drill. Everyone goes to the bus. And it's amazing the first couple of days how crazy it is. And by day 4 or 5, every kid knows where to go. That being said, you have 1,000 kids on a bus ramp all going to a different bus. And your bus drivers have to stay on the bus because you've got to supervise the kids on the bus. We have a couple lead drivers and we have a couple security officers, but you got 2 or 3 people with lots of blind spots. So to answer your question is, we need more people on the bus ramp. Being short 47 officers in our security is a challenge for us, but it's also reinvigorating. We've just engaged with Mr. Cox again because now we've kind of leveled things out. We've adjusted units so that we can start having some Magnet employees because they know the kids. They know their kids that are going out through those buses. So we need more supervision on ramps. It is, as someone who was at Tampa Bay Tech for 7 years, and that's one of the only locations where we have a ramp on a school site. it is intimidating would be a fair word to say as an administrator. So having more people out there, more sets of eyes is something we focused on. Mr. Cox, the Magna office, will help us push that. And we've also allocated more officers to make sure they're there. But it is, you can never have too many people on a bus ramp to be safe. It is a legitimate concern, Ms. Gray.
So back to you, Superintendent Ayers. There's a call to action. We have possibly lawsuits, and I'm not sure. That's a question I'll ask later on, but possible lawsuits that are occurring from safety issues related to not only off the bus but on the bus. But the final part of this question on safety is when we address those new schools or renovated schools. For example, we had Lee, Tampa Bay, Tampa Heights Elementary, Columbus Avenue, busy, dangerous, and I know you and I have talked about this maybe 2 years ago. Are we having the signage? Is the city of Tampa working with us to provide the yellow stripes, the safe from one side of the road to the other? Belmont, that's out in South County. It's an intersection, comes 4 ways. Children, are getting near hit. I don't know if they put a light there. I hadn't been out there maybe in a month, but that's another problem. Grady Elementary, when you go ahead and have sidewalk stompers, you're going to go ahead and have this big, wonderful event, and a lot of the parents are seeing this road that goes right straight to Grady with no stop sign. And I don't know if that's been fixed. So, and I know Chief Newman, long ago I shared that. I don't know the interconnectivity, but Lisa, you're addressing how the city of Tampa, but we also have mayors. Are we working with Mayor Andy Ross for Temple Terrace to keeping those areas safe? Are we working with Nathan Kilton? We were out there the other day to keep Plant City schools safe. How, and this goes to Member Vaughn, the connectivity, the BOCC, the city of Tampa. We need to be part of those conversations, share, and I'm not saying you're not, because I know we have a better relationship, but still, the marriage among all these entities, I think needs to be worked on in terms of the safety / funding. I have more questions, but I know board members have others. But Superintendent Ayers, I know you have you're going to get calls to action, so I see the list for me. Thank you all.
Thank you, Member Gray. Member Perez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On page 9, your bus technology, Here Comes the Bus, have you had some updates on that recently? And can you please talk to us about that?
So we have, and Here Comes the Bus is one that is the RFID card that we've talked about is a big part of it. And again, you can opt out of it for those people that want to know, and the information on the card is not identifiable to the student. It only helps you, because I know that's always a concern. But right now, the way Here Comes the Bus is set up, we've only done the elementary stage, is it tells you when it's in a 2-mile radius of your house. The problem is not all routes are just from point A to point B. You may be going around the neighborhood, so that 15 minutes may be a little bit longer. So there are challenges that are innate with the way we're using Here Comes the Bus. That's just the way it's set up. When we get to a point where in students, not only does it help us for FTE and funding and that part too, but more importantly, it talks specifically about your students. So parents know specifically when your kid on the bus, when your stop is coming for that student. And if they don't have their card, there's ways for the bus driver to help support that part of it too. So Here Comes the Bus, I agree with Ms. Hill, has been a great thing, but it's definitely not perfect. There's definitely, you can tell it's being used because when it's not working, Ms. Hill and I's phone is has lots of calls, which we think is a wonderful thing. I mean, we think that's a great thing. Ms. Hill gave me the favor of assigning my son to a bus, even though he's not riding one, so that I get the Here Comes the Bus every single day, every afternoon, because it's a great way for me to kind of keep grounded on making sure it comes and we know when it's going to be there. But to answer your question, there are definitely some times when it goes out, and the fact that people are upset when it goes out tells us that it's doing what we want it to do.
Yeah, I get some of those calls too, as you know. So on page 13, I want to, as Board Member Vaughn and Gray have talked about, Tampa, in a article, July of 22, it stated that Tampa ranked the highest among metro areas for pedestrian, or just the deadliest. and then also March 19. But it said that we ranked the fourth highest. And when they looked at the 3 most dangerous roads, it was actually Hillsborough Avenue, Bush, and Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard. Those 3 were the main roads. And we do have students and schools that are on those roads. Sometimes I come down Hillsborough Avenue, I see our students there trying to cross over either from Hillsborough High, they're trying to cross Hillsborough Avenue, but there is nobody there to help them out there, you know. Right there from the street on Hillsborough Avenue where it meets Hillsborough High. And then also we have, you know, Carver Exceptional. That's right there on Hillsborough Avenue. And on MLK we have Young Middle. And there's one school that's a special needs center there on, you know, it's a charter school, but it's a special need nonetheless. So when we're looking at these data-driven projects, how are we adjusting that to not just our student population, because, you know, we all know that it's growing, but also to the reports that are coming out, the data that is coming out regarding our city and these areas?
Okay, well, that was great. Okay, all right. So yes, those are our murderous roadways, and unfortunately, they're all owned and maintained by the Department of Transportation. But they are partners with us. We are consistently in communication about those because that. Yeah. So Hillsborough, I can say, and Hillsborough High were one of our first road safety audits. The Department of Transportation even funded that. Fortunately, it's a slow trickle of getting all of the recommendations from those audits implemented. So it takes a little time to like change the numbers and have that drive down to 0. Bush Boulevard, I didn't get into the weeds in the presentation, but when Bush Boulevard was brought up from the Department of Transportation that they were going to be doing a safety study, and we're like, hold on, you know, and so immediately at the time, Cindy Stewart directed staff, and I'm like, I had district staff going to those meetings with me and the land use planners. So when you see the West Bush Boulevard improvements, those raised medians, and they now have the signal timing. It's nearly impossible to speed on that roadway, all in front of Chamberlain, which I forgot to say earlier. Unfortunately, the fatality in front of Chamberlain High School is why the TPO became the first ever to adopt a Vision Zero action plan, and, you know, that student died there. So, Martin Luther King also, yeah, we do performance measurements every year and share them with the board, like how we're doing. Again, not getting to 0 as fast as Lisa would like to see, but there are efforts, and those are state-controlled roadways, letting your state people know you're very much want to accelerate the recommendations because there's studies out the wazoo for those roadways.
Thank you. And I'm just going to get back in the queue, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Perez. Member Rendon?
Thank you guys so much. This presentation was extremely thorough. We've got a lot of data from the city, and so, you know, I represent all county. You know, I'm not in the city limits at all. So would you say, Mr. Farkas, that we have more buses countywide in the county area or in the city? And are we dealing with issues on both sides, but we have a lot more walkers and that short distances in our city than we do our county? Because I feel like there's a difference and a disconnect sometimes. I mean, I may not have the busy traffic of Bush Boulevard, but I have a lot of rural area that is very dangerous with absolutely no sidewalks or, you know, directly onto a road path. So I'm dealing with very different issues when we look at our county is so vast. Are we seeing, do we have more bus drivers countywide?
So yes, we got more in the county. I mean, just population-wise, there's more county people. But to your point, the infrastructure the county is dealing with is the growth in the county. I mean, yes, there's a little bit in the city too, but the growth, the countywide. So you look at Sumner High School is a good example that I use. So we planned Sumner out years and years in advance, working with the county to do that part of it too. There was a plan to have a full infrastructure there from the county perspective. Unfortunately, it ran into a funding issue. and they're just now finishing, 2 years and 2 months into some of that thing. And again, I'm not saying anything disparaging as the county. They had some of the same issues we had before our sales tax, where there's only so much money. But to answer your question, we have huge issues in your part of the county and the rural parts of the county because the infrastructure is not there. It wasn't made for walking or biking. And when you have big schools with 3,800 kids, or our middle schools that are overcrowded, Shields or things like that, but it's also the plant cities. It's also the schools that are out there in that part of it too, where it was meant to be a commuter school. But we've got enough, there's growth around there, whether it's multifamily homes or apartments, where you've got a lot more people walking in that part too. So to answer your question, they are different problems, but the safety is paramount for both those, and we have lots of issues in rural parts of Hillsborough County.
Well, and I think, to Member Gray's point, a lot of the things that you're talking about when we talk about like a charge to action on our end are really a lot of responsibilities that are on the city and the county to put in those infrastructures. And so I think we have to have more of a plan as a district and really make sure that we're utilizing our funding for where our funding should go, and then putting the pressure on, no offense, the county and the city to really take responsibility for their responsibility. And so I don't want to diminish that we have to maintain the safety of our children. Absolutely. But we really have to make sure that our county partners, our city partners come along aside of us and really make sure they do that, because ultimately they won't have a city or a county if we don't have students in our seals.
If I could jump in at this point, because you've raised a really good point, and there's some history involved with what you just said. There's actually been litigation in the past with the county about what we can pay for and what the county should pay for. And the courts have ruled in our favor that we can only use our money for infrastructure improvements that touch our school. The county doesn't agree with that. Mr. Farkas has done a really good job of working through with some of those issues with the county, but it's been an ongoing problem on a funding level and on what our responsibility is. And so it's a really critical point that you bring up, Member Rendon, and it's important that everyone understand the history of that. And again, Mr. Farkas has done a good job of working through some of those issues, but we're not where we need to be with the county especially.
Well, thank you for bringing that. And that was one of the reasons, because, again, with all due respect, Member Gray, I don't want to put the public's knowledge in the fact that we were going to put pressure on our staff, our superintendent, to be responsible for something that we're not. We've got to make sure that the city and the county really take ownership in what they're responsible for. I know we had some situation with sidewalk issues in some of our areas, and especially in my area out in the east area of the county, we have a lot of housing developments. They need to take responsibility for the sidewalks within their housing developments outside of the actual property of our school. And so we need to make sure that, and I don't know if maybe that's it, we have a clear line of sight of who's responsible, a designated person who's going to be that person within our district that's going to be able to manage those pieces. I know we all get calls about safety, whether it's sidewalks or hazardous roads conditions, but we really want to make sure that we delineate exactly whose responsibility those are. So if I had a recommendation, it would be to really make sure we understand as a board who that clear line of sight was going to be, so that they can have a direct connect to our city or our county to get that call to action for us. In many cases, I find that to be a large part of them. If I could go back to the app, Here Comes the Bus, and I know you said that the new card for attendance isn't going to directly go to a student. How is that possible? If I've got a child on the bus and they're telling me if the student is on the bus, how is that not personalized? I'm trying to understand that.
Because they're two separate systems that have different encrypted data, meaning that they can't get, just because they have the card. Well, first, the card can only be read on the bus. It can't be read anyplace else. It's got to be within 6 inches or 12 inches of the reader is the first part. So you can't track your kid once he gets off the bus is the first important one. The second one is it has an identifiable student number that is only for that kid. It's not our student number. It's their own different number that corresponds to us. So when their encrypted system talks to our encrypted system, that is when it actually does that. So the bus device and the card do not have Van Ayers with his student number and his address, that part of it too. It's only the number that corresponds to him. So you have to have those systems talk before they can have that information.
So let's say Patty Rendon doesn't get on the bus. What happens?
So your mom and dad will know you didn't get on the bus because they didn't get notification that Patty Rendon, because after we get the
Because
cards
I
out-
sign up as a parent.
Yes.
What numbers I want to be contacted.
That is 100% correct. All the more reason we need to, as with anything, update your child's information at your school site, because we're only as good as the information we have. But yes, ma'am. And if your kid, like my son, forgets things lots of time and didn't bring his card or put it in the other backpack, then the bus driver has the ability on the tablet to tap in Patty Rendon got on the bus, and you get the same information that part too. So we know that parents feel strongly about the identifiable information. We feel strongly about making sure we have the funding and that our kids are safe, knowing who's on the bus and who got off the bus. Most principals and administrators in the district will tell you that first day of school, especially in elementary school, is about procedures and where did that kindergartner go and what bus did they go. Are they a walker? Are they host? So this 100% could say no. Miss Rendon, Patty Rendon got on the bus at 7:23 and got off the bus at 7:28. So it really is some accountability around that and giving some peace of mind for the parents.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, I have two sides of that coin, because part of me wants to have more of an opt-in, to put more of the responsibility on the parent, to make sure that they have provided the information, that they know exactly what's being given, exactly what they have. On the other hand, the liability of the district, I like to know that we have a student got on or off the bus, and we can know that where that student is, because again, overall it's the safety. So I will say I'm torn, because I do find it to be a two-sided coin. I want to protect the rights of the parents and having them opt in, making sure that they take the responsibility of what information is given. But then again, that safety piece is huge. So I'd like to have some more information as we move forward on that. Even if it's a matter of my kids drive, so she is not on the bus, but I'd be willing to even be a participant on that, like to try that, to play with it. I think it's important to understand it and how it works. And so if there's a way we can do that, or partner with a friend of mine, or whatever we need to do to be able to see how that would work, because I think it's important. I think the other part is too, when we opt out, we're always not sure what communication got to parents. When we opt in, we know what communication they have, right? So that's another piece of me that weighs the priority of those two issues. So I would like to know a little bit more about that. The other thing is, how many schools do we have in our district that don't have a school zone? I find that to be odd.
There are exceptions. I don't know the answer, but
Okay. I think that'd be interesting to know as a district. And again, I had never, ever come across a school zone that there wasn't one. So I would like to, now I know that after a certain space, right, there's no school zone, but to not have one at all is very, very concerning to me. So I would like to know how many we actually don't have school zones. And then again, if it is a city or a county, then let's, right, then we need to figure out that statute. Yeah. And maybe if you guys, whether it's Kristen or transportation, whoever could provide us with that statute of exactly what a school zone would look like would be great. Yeah, right. Right. So that my last question, I'm sorry for taking up so much time, but we talked about the two grants, the $20 million to the city and the $20 million to the county. I'm kind of unclear on, it appears that the grant was awarded in 2022, but do we not get money, and did they not receive funding before, or where are we at with the,
Okay, well, that's another OPM, other people's money, because we are woefully underfunded. The BOCC does not have a dedicated transportation funding source, so the needs are astronomical. So, in little fun example, City of Tampa has about 9 to 11 million in their mobility department budget. We doubled that by getting this federal grant for Safe Streets for All, because they got 20 million to now supplement with that. And it takes about $1 million to do 1 mile of sidewalk. So do the math. We cannot get to all the schools and stuff with our sources of transportation funding. So, but because this was Safe Streets for All and had certain criteria, and all the studies we had done matched up with what they were giving out, we were successful in reaching that to help supplement what we do have.
So for the city, they've received the money and they're working in partnership to have some of it go to to city issues and then some to schools, is what I'm hearing.
Oh, okay. So the City of Tampa and unincorporated Hillsborough both applied and both got different amounts. They put different things in their little package. I know because I'm just, curious, and it's my projects that they help, fund. I'm like, oh, and so they have a list of things. So like around Copeland Park and Shaw, 15th Street's going to get some love, So they put all of that in there. They're working on getting them implemented now. Columbus Avenue, they have many things in their list of projects. Some of them touch school studies and other safety projects. So they
So we
put them
know
in the packet.
city, but do
That's-
we know what the grant was then awarded also the county, but we don't really know.
They have some of their safe streets for all, or safe routes to school projects in their list of projects. It's a little more vague and just a map. And like I said, it's a little harder to find the information from the unincorporated Hillsborough. But if you guys make a request, I'm sure they'll share the data.
Again, Chris, if you, I'm looking at you because you're here, but I don't know really where that line item would go to be able to find out what the county is doing so that we know where that funding is going in partnership. I think that's important. Again, the county's so vast.
Yes.
And what they do is so large. I understand, but yeah,
Now they
we
have-
need to be a little selfish.
They have done presentations to, I'm the liaison to the Livable Roadways Committee, of which your staff serves on. So that's where we coordinate school transportation in addition to other topics. And the county, I have requested, and they did come and present. So I know, and because the TPO has to sign the grants in partnership with things that the school district or the unincorporated Hillsborough Public Works Department goes for, we had to sign their Safe Routes to School grant. So they had like King and Sly and Lato in one of them, and there were another one. Yeah, so they have several that they're pursuing. I just don't have them all top of head.
I'll make sure we get that. I mean,
Yeah.
both
I agree. I think
Ms. Wise,
it
Mr.
seems
Hordell,
to
but
be
easy to work with.
really kind of vague.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yep.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rendon. Member Washington?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Member Vaughn also for the workshop. And Ms. Silver, you did a great job along with Ms. Hill and Mr. Farkas. One of the things that I realized when I first became an area director in Hillsborough County was that magnet bus ramp. And I think when I was the area director, Chris, you may have been the principal at Tampa Bay Tech. And the one thing I can say about Tampa Bay Tech on that ramp, it was all about safety. You had a lot of people from your school out there working the ramp that didn't know the students, but they had presence there. So that's great for you to say, Chris, when you said that we really need more people out there. But you did a good job.
And all of them got promoted. You got Mr. Brooks now. And
That's right. All of them got promoted.
They were all on
That's
that
right.
ramp with us.
And they did a great job on that ramp. Now, I got some questions. I recall when I was at Milton High School, we had a community that was infested with drugs and so forth. So some of our students were able to have transportation. Or do we still have that if they have a pretty rough community?
It's the exception more than the rule. It is very rare. And the honest answer is because what that criteria is was never defined. So
Okay.
as much as it was a legitimate issue and some of the stuff that you had to deal with as principal at Middleton when they'd walk off and have some of the stuff that happened off campus, right off campus, or
Right.
Versus other ones where it was more convenient as opposed to it being a safety issue was kind of convoluted, I would say. So I think that across the board we said, okay, let's make sure everyone just has the 2 mile, and then we've added a couple things back in around that part. And Middleton's a good example because crossing Hillsborough to Ms. Perez's part, where we also had a fatality, is also one where we've put in a shuttle run across Hillsborough and that part of it too. So we have made some exceptions to that, but it is the exception. We don't want that to be the rule. But yeah.
Okay, good. Now, also, city buses. Students that ride the bus, do they have passes, free passes to ride the bus?
Yes, they do. It's making sure that the city bus goes where it needs to our schools is a challenge for us.
Okay.
North Tampa Alternative is one of the few schools that actually utilizes that. But it means that you may have a 6th grader that has to take 2 buses or 3 buses to get there, which is a challenge for us.
Right.
But to answer your question, yes, sir. Every person that rides a city bus for us, because we gave them that path to school, it covers the cost, and we give them a pass to ride it during that time. So they don't have to pay for that. We pay for it.
Good. Now, do they also get the pass from the school? How do they receive
do.
the pass?
They do. They get it from the school, and we give it to the school to pay for it. just for a reference point, that's the only transportation we do where it's actual equal money. That's how much we're funded for. We're funded about 41 cents on the dollar for everything else. We spend just over $35 million on transportation is what we get funded, and we spend about 71 or 72 every year.
Okay, now, another question. On buses, on county school buses, do we have cameras now on all buses?
Yes, sir. We have cameras. We have cameras that shoot forward, seeing so we know where they are. We have camera that shoots over the drivers and then shoots the rest of the entire bus. So internal cameras is where they go. What you're going to see going forward is external cameras to talk about, and what we kind of talked about with that legislative platform, to see when people pass a school arm that goes out. And Ms. Hill and I have unfortunately spent a lot of time looking at some scary footage, to say the least, of some of our cameras that shoot out and see people passing, kids almost getting hit. I mean, the near tragedies that we've seen in the past few years is amazing. We look forward to collecting zero. I hope that we get to a point where everyone stops for the school bus and that we don't get any money from that, in all honesty, and our kids are safe, because some of the things we've seen are scary, to answer your question. So yes, we have cameras inside, and over the next 6 months, we'll be coming back to the board and saying, hey, we're going to be putting cameras outside to make sure that the drivers around them are safe as well.
And now, my last question, are we looking at schools that don't have sidewalks? Because I know it's pretty tough out in Sumter area because they don't have sidewalks. Now, is that the commissioners? How does that work, Mr. Farkas? So we all understand.
Answer, but the truth is that that's not what the criteria is for a hazardous walking condition.
Okay.
It's a flat path that's 4 feet wide. It's not a sidewalk.
Okay.
So it is making sure we have that. So the first part is it doesn't have to be a sidewalk. It has to be a flat area to walk in. That being said, as a parent that has a kid in school, and all of you that have had kids in school, you want a sidewalk makes you feel much more comfortable. So we work with the county to do that. But to Ms. Silva's point, they don't have the funds to be able to do it, as an honest answer. So it's really a priority list of what's the next one that they're going to hit. Sometimes it's fueled by a board asking another board. Sometimes it's fueled by tragedy. Sometimes it's fueled just by what they see with studies and things like that. So it's a combination of things. But to answer your question, there is a lot of schools that need sidewalks, a lot of schools that need that part of it too, to do that part. So it's really, and they're doing them. It's just how quickly they do them and what the priority is of how they do those. But
Okay,
yes, we definitely spend time in animated conversations on which school they should do next. Yes, sir.
Because it's important. I realize it's important to have sidewalks. Because even at Milton High School, kids are walking in the street in the afternoon, so we don't have sidewalk. But I think you answered all my questions, and thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. And Ms. Vaughn, thank you for this workshop. I think you had left the room, and I gave you a compliment. Oh, you did? Good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. I have a few comments and then questions. I think this is obviously such an important topic, and I appreciate you bringing this up. I think it actually even opens the door more to realize how many real deep issues we have. As far, to me, it kind of almost I was awoke, but I'm more awake to this because I think it's been even more of a concern. But first, I do want to say, especially to Ms. Hill, you have been so wonderful when I call for so many issues, when parents call, because, we are very short. I mean, there's no question. So I think there's two parts. There's one, the safety part of that, and then the other part is some questions and funding and things like that. So first, I just want to thank you. Every time I call or every time there's a concern, you've been very responsive so quickly. And I think it's really important. I don't know who mentioned to really talk to the TPO and County Commission to look at the further studies. And do we have, for every school, because when I looked at the list of the schools that you gave, there were several schools in District 1, but I think of other schools that I've been active in where there's been an issue. Is there a list for every school? These are the things that are strong and safe in this area, and this is kind of like the wish list for each school, or what would make the school safer. Do we have that for every single school?
We do not, and that is a lot of that came from the studies. That's what you're paying for. And
right.
Funding that part too is they go with engineers and traffic engineers to say, hey, what would be the ideal situation? So unless it's in that study, it's not, with the exception of some of the ones that have gone on circulation committee, because when it does come to circulation committee, we do send experts out and people to go out and review and send that, but there is not a comprehensive list of here's our 250 schools and here's what the strengths and weaknesses are of each one of those sites.
I mean, I know that's a lot of work, but I would love to see something like that, because I think at the top of my head of some of my schools where I think, wow, they're great, they've done this, and then I see some schools where I think, well, gosh, this is a really dangerous area. I'm thinking of West Chase, that Mary Bryant area. area. I really appreciate, the sheriff's office keeping the crossing guards there. But even when I was there with the crossing guards, I'm like, wow, this is so dangerous. Like, this area is so dangerous. And there's so many schools. I think of several places that I live nearby where I think there's a lot of danger there. And what can we do? So it would be great. I mean, I know it's a lot of work, but it would be great because there are some schools, I would think half of our schools that there aren't big issues, and probably more than half that there's some really large issues, and some schools that aren't on the list that I think we really need to look at again. So that was the first thing. And then I also want to say I appreciate bringing up the hourly rate for the bus drivers, because it is such a critical shortage no matter what. We can't educate students if they can't get there. And I think more and more parents are working. Two people are working. It's very hard to get children to school. Everything's changing. Gas is very expensive. Sometimes just the time, like today, it took me an hour to get here, right? And because of something that was going on in the highway. So I think that's a big issue for families. And when kids aren't there in the beginning of the day, it's just hard. So I appreciate. So I think it's very important. I appreciate the increase. I think we need to continue trying to increase more and more, because we've got to get the bus drivers out there. Also, I agree with what Member Gray said. The processing has to be faster. People cannot wait weeks to get processed because people have to pay their bills. And so I appreciate that we're doing some internal CDS licenses. Like, what do we do to continue to promote that and push that to make sure that we can support that? And I do have a question with SB 766 on page 6. I see that the fine, like, what amount are we getting and what amount is the city getting? Because it wasn't very clear to me, are we generating money for the city, or, because if we're kind of responsible internally to do some of this, wouldn't we want to, I'd like to see the dollar value of exactly if someone has a $200, what amount of money are we receiving and what amount of money is somebody else receiving, and is that going into a bucket that's only to improve the safety of our schools, or is that being spent on other things?
Try it again. Great question. So that's what we're working on for you right now. We've had lots of meetings, MOUs with the Sheriff's Department and the county. We're negotiating that with vendors as well, because every vendor has their idea that they're the best ones. And if you haven't, I'm surprised you haven't gotten people that have approached you, because they've certainly approached Ms. Hill and I. So we're working on what is the best. Because here's the other part, we're short people. So having people that are going to actually work on that, we want a vendor that can come in and do the work for us. You put the buses on, you do the maintenance on that part of it too. You put the package together and send it to the Sheriff's Department, because we don't have staff to do that. And there's people that's their area of expertise. So you will see MOUs, so you will have that exact information. What percentage do we get? Right now the law states that the money that we receive has to go towards safety improvement on school buses, not even towards salaries or anything like that. It has to go towards, and we've got some products that are great. Instead of just the red flashing line, it's an LED light that goes out. So there's more ways to kind of make our buses safe. That being said, I believe that having paid drivers and a great route and veteran drivers is probably another way to keep us safe. So that's what we're going to push for in the legislative platform. But to answer your question, you will have a detailed list of, it's a $200 fine. This is how much the company gets. This is how much the county gets. This is how much the school district gets.
Do you have any idea what the percentage? Are we looking at, I feel like it's small the way we're talking.
It is not small. That's what we're working on right now, or we won't sign with them.
Okay. And then my other question is, are we doing a call to action with the PTAs? Because there's a lot of areas that there's strong PTAs, and then there's some areas where maybe we don't have, a strong PTA, but we do have representatives that represent that school for PTA. Can we do a strong call to action for them? Because I think parents want that. Because not only are the parents who are taking the children, the parents who have older kids who are nervous when they drive by. So, I think all of that, and if you're going to generate tickets, parents are going to look at us, they're going to be angry at us, but if we're not getting that money, then it doesn't make sense. If they're going to be angry at us, let's make sure that we're getting the money, right?
Definitely. And part of the law said that we have to have 30 days of education, that warnings, you're not going to get a ticket the first time you go through, all that part too. So there's 30 days, and we anticipate having board members, the superintendent, the sheriff on those, some of those video commercials talking about what that looks like. But I think a big part of it is, and why it passed in Tallahassee, and some of the representatives I've talked to, is how do you argue against students being safe? Like, how do you argue? I mean, the idea is to cut down the number of them. You can't pass a red arm bus that has the stop arm out. You can't. You're in a school zone. So there's definitely, and the fact that the passing the red arm is a violation where it's the driver. I mean, the car, not the driver, also helps us from that point. It's not points on your license, so the push back on that is not hard. But to answer your question, yes, I think we do need to engage PTAs around that. That'll be part of that 30-day. But what we're working very hard on right now is trying to make sure it's safe, but also make sure that the district gets their fair share. That's being good fiscal stewards of those dollars.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. Whatever money that we get, we're generating that money to put back in to make those schools really safe. So that way it will push people to give us a higher percentage of that because we are being, we are being financially, stable and making right decisions. So we put that money back into the sidewalks, not that it goes into a pot and sometimes you don't even know where that money's going.
Yeah, so right now the law is very clear. They can only be used on school buses and safety. We're going to push to say it should be used on school safety around schools, on transportation, things like that. It cannot be used anywhere else, though. We can't take that money and put it somewhere else. It has to be used on school bus safety right now. It's very explicit in the law because they were worried about that.
And this is another question. You don't have to answer it now because it's probably like kind of open, but really the plan of where we are as far as one day getting some electrical buses here, what that looks like. You don't have to tell us now, but you can kind of, give us a. Okay.
We actually think it's a great idea. It's just the cost of it right now. The cost of electric buses went up from $310,000 to $380,000 roughly. That being said, we are actively pursuing another grant with the federal government. We've applied. It's already in. We've done it. Our grants department, Hillary Paul, has done a wonderful job of helping us, working with Laura to make sure we are actively going after grants and talking to anybody we can, saying, hey, please consider us for this grant. But from a fiscal standpoint, we've got to make sure we have a little help to make that happen. So there's the largest one yet is on the table. Our application's in there. We are very hopeful and heard positive stuff, but until we get awarded, like I said, I look forward to sending an email to the board or Van saying, hey, this is what we received. But we have an application in right now for electric buses.
And this is my last comment. I mean, and I guess this is just a thought. One of the things that I think that we really need to do in this district is look at districts in like areas, pockets of areas, because I think it's really unfair that sometimes, a parent wants their child to go to a certain magnet school, whatever, like there's someone I know the other day, they wanted to go to a certain school, but the transportation going there was about 2.5 hours there, 2.5 hours back. That's 5 hours. That's 25 hours for a child on a bus. I think we need to make sure that's really clear to parents so that way they have viable choices that are closer to their area so they don't have to go so far across to another district. If a parent wants to choose that, that's fine. But as far as being really, making sure that the cost is right. And so that way a child is not doing a double back or a triple back because you're driving someone 5 hours. We really need to look at pockets of areas and making sure that those areas are have everything that they need as far as if there's a performing arts, if there's a IB, if there's an ACE Cambridge, whatever that child wants, that way they don't have to go for 5 hours. I think it's, because I think parents want the best for their child, but I can say putting a child on a bus for all those hours is just not great for their child for multiple reasons. So that's just something I wanted to comment on.
Couldn't agree more. From both hubbing and transportation, we couldn't agree more that trying to find attractor programs that are regional solve not just that, the cost of transportation is another part too. So because it's expensive to transport the magnet kids 2.5 hours. You're paying the driver, the gas, all the things that go with it. So we agree. Mr. Ayers has already talked to us about looking at magnet transportation and charging us with doing that. So we are very much eager to tackle that one.
And even sharing like studies or information with parents, what that looks like, the number of hours, because I think, parents always want to do what's best for their child. They always do, but sometimes they don't always have all the information in front of them. So they might not realize that child is actually, by the time they get out of school, they might think, oh, they're only on for an hour and 20 minutes, but actually it's like 2.5 hours and things like that because people are so busy with their lives. So I just think providing more information for parents kind of helps them make the best choice for their child. Okay, thank you. Member Vaughn?
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you all my fellow board members for such great and engaging comments. I wasn't sure if this workshop was going to get a lot of engagement or not, because it is very high level. I wanted to just kind of use my knowledge from sitting on the MPO to respond to some of the comments I heard coming from my fellow board members. First of all, Member Washington, thank you so much for talking about our relationship with the city bus, HART specifically, and what that looks like. I actually was at an event with City Councilwoman Gwen Henderson this weekend, and we were talking about, because she sits on the board for HART, not MPO, about how she sees an opportunity to use the city buses and what that looks like. But you mentioned accessibility and going to our schools. So as we navigate our relationship with the other municipalities, and as I do, sit on the MPO board, what I think we have to highlight that our priority is safety that we talk about, and I anticipate that's going to be a lot of conversation coming out of the MPO board this next year. We have a lot of new commissioners that don't seem to value safety as much and don't want to prioritize it, so I think as a school board we're going to really need to make sure that they understand that that is a priority, as well as accessibility and what that looks like, because one of the obstacles that I anticipate we talk about is whether the buses go to the schools and what that looks like. So I think that's why I wanted to have this conversation, is so we can all start engaging in conversation and using our connections and relationships with other municipality members to talk about how we can be collaborative in this process. So I think that's great, and I think that's an option. And as you mentioned, in South Florida, that's what they use for their magnets. But they have a much more thorough, accessible, connected public transit system. And so when we advocate for public transit and what that looks like, we're not just talking about tourists coming in or commuters, we're talking about our students. And that hasn't been one of the factors we've talked about at the MPO board since I've sat on it. So that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation. The next piece is, I know Member Gray wanted to know kind of like, are we talking to other mayors and other municipalities? And on page 3 of the slides that Ms. Silva shared, it shows exactly who sits on the MPO board. And you can see the Plant City Mayor, Temple Terrace Mayor, who is our Vice Chair, Mayor Ross. He's fantastic and amazing and does a great job advocating specifically for Temple Terrace, but all of Hillsborough County. We sit with HART, we sit with the Port of Tampa, the Expressway Authority. So there's a lot of voices at the table, which is why that board is so important, to keep a school board member on that board as well. And another thing that I wanted to mention when I heard Member Rendon talking about how do we identify whose job it is so we're not bogged down at the school trying to take responsibility. Well, that comes a lot to the circulation board, because from the kind of slide, the circulation slide that you gave us, we start with a concern. It goes to the circulation board. That's their job, to engage who's in charge of that, to talk about it, to have people from the municipalities go out. But what I think is the piece that is missing, that is board members, is we're very disconnected from that circulation committee and what the outcomes are. And one thing that I've asked is that we could get some updates on that, to know like what the other municipalities are prioritizing, why they're saying yes, why they're saying no. And I had actually advocated with Mr. Davis to have a full-time person to be that liaison, to talk to us and be able to help us navigate these issues, since they are so complex. But at the time, he wasn't able to allot that. So that might be another ask that we have. If you identify that we should have one go-to person, because it's such a big job and such a big department, we can't put all that responsibility on one person who has a lot of other demands on their job. So that was one thing I had talked with Mr. Davis about, because I had gone through this and tried to identify how we can streamline this and make communication a little bit better. So that might be something we want to revisit. The other thing I want to talk about, and this is kind of what I'm going to be micro-focused on, because I've been out to a lot of different schools and we've been talking about how we can manage the issues when it comes to backed up car lines, because the truth is, and I'll say this as much as I can, our schools weren't made for this kind of parent drop-off, especially our elementary schools. They were made for buses. And when the state legislation changed that 2-mile radius, our schools were not in the shape to be able to handle how many parent drop-offs we were going to have. So a huge issue, aside from light management, right, that administrators identify at their own school sites, is just paving easeways. That there's a lot of space between where the turn lane is and turning into the school, and if we could have someone go out and just pave those easeways, it would almost create a full dedicated turn lane for the school, therefore alleviating so much traffic off the main roads. That's an easy fix, and a huge identification of a lot of things that we can do is with those easement areas, offer a dedicated lane. I cannot get that done. Now, there's one school where there's a mayor in that city who has a child who is able to get to a county commissioner, and he seems to have had some more headway with that. But if we can focus on that specifically, those easeways, which, you know, I know they're expensive, but they probably aren't as expensive as a lot of other solutions that would immediately leave that congestion, I would love to focus on that. So that's one conversation I want to have going forward is the easement and what that looks like. Also, you know, you identified here that a lot of what makes parents comfortable with allowing their kids to walk is accessibility to their children. And I wrote down what page it was, but now I don't remember. But 31, I think, and how it's like cell phone and text messaging. And basically they want to make sure that their kids are safe when they leave school and they can figure out where they are. So as we talk about our cell phone policy, I just want to think about how it also translates after school, how important it is for parents to feel like they have access to their kids, to feel safe to allow them to walk. So I know we're not talking about removing cell phones or anything like that from students altogether, but I want to encourage at least accessibility where kids can get it out of their backpack or they can have it so when they leave school, we don't have parents who are then not allowing their kids to walk and bogging up our car lines now because they don't there's cell phone issues. So this is how it's all interconnected as we look at our policies. I just wanted to point out that that was a huge indicator of parents allowing their kids to be pedestrians is having access to them. Let's see, just making sure. Oh, as far as the electric bus grant, I will validate that because Ms. Hill called me to try to get a letter from the MPO that she needed same day. And I was able to get her that letter along with Ms. Silva. So I will they are moving forward on that. We acted very quickly to get that, and I appreciate the MPO. And just going forward, what I would ask for my fellow school board members is to come out with some action items to stay focused on transportation. Again, use your relationships when we talk about putting pressure, just to emphasize how, as school board members, safety is paramount, and we want all decisions around transportation to be focused on the safety of our kids as well as accessibility, because there's a lot of disconnection between our priorities and the conversations we have at the MPO. So, you know, if you have an opportunity to watch the meetings, they're always publicized, or if there's an issue you want me to advocate for at those meetings, you have a specific issue. I don't think it violates sunshine because nobody else sits on that board, and we potentially wouldn't vote on anything unless it's something we would vote on. Please let me know, or go through Jim or whatever, but I don't want to be the only liaison. If there are issues that you guys have or things that you want to advocate for, please utilize my connections and my knowledge as well. And with that, I say thank you.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. And we just have 10 more minutes, and I think I have a couple more speakers. So Member Gray and then Member Perez.
Real quick, Chris Farkas, what is our funding availabilities for signage? Do we have that in our budget?
So back to Mr. Porter's point. So we can't pay for signage on campus. We can do, and we have ability to do that. Our local millage, we can do all that. We just can't pay for anything off. Just like the turn lanes, we can only pay when it's on our property. But yes, we have ability to do that. It's part of Mr. Moore's budget and transportation and maintenance.
Okay. Next question. When we talk about sidewalks on new developments, and we have done this many times, we know that Lennar Builders also committed to building a sidewalk on their new development. As we go forward, is that your normal navigation now? Is that our applied process?
So it's 100% on the county to require that, but they very much have done that. I think they felt the pain and the cost of doing that in other places, so they are requiring that of many of their new developments, but that is a county requirement to do that part too.
But typically what would happen when a Lennar or another big developer would come in for rezoning, that's typically what happens. If they do a planned development rezoning, the county will impose a specific condition that they have to put sidewalks on. But that is the county. We can be involved with that, but it's not our decision. But they are more aware of that, and they are making that more of a requirement for new developments.
Okay,
I will add, because this is a pet peeve of mine, is that yes, land use and transportation, super important. You know, we have an interlocal agreement. We're trying to do better and better. I forever want sidewalks paid for by the development because we do not have magic money to go back and put them in after the fact. City of Tampa, very rigorous about enforcing their sidewalk land development code regulations, and if they're exempted out of it, a developer, or if the sidewalk can't be put in, they require the developer to pay into a mitigation fund so they can go fund some other gap somewhere else. Unincorporated Hillsborough County, not rigorous in enforcing the comprehensive plan policies for sidewalks, and in their they exempt them and variance them, and yeah.
Thank you. Real quick, Ms. Hill, you have a board of how many? You have sort of a board, right? The folks that help put on transportation. Was it 6 members?
You're talking about the leadership team?
Yeah, your leadership team. Can one of those leaders on your team, and we don't have time to enumerate their job duties, but can one of them be a liaison from your office to the absolute TPO, or in some way with the legislations? In other words, be involved with the commitment of transportation as it relates to our, not only our state reps, senators, and mayors. Can they have that position? You don't have Chris, you don't have enough staff. You don't have enough money. We got to do something to get their attention, and to be, to work with them. What do you think?
In the past, Mr. Beekman and I attended those meetings. So, yes, ma'am, I think it's doable.
You think it's doable? Okay, well, we could talk later, but I remember you and I discussing their job duties, and I thought, God, one of them maybe can help with that commitment.
They are very dynamic. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Gray, and we'll finish off with Member Perez.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go back to the app. A lot of people continue assuming that all our parents have access to a phone or technology, especially in our low-income areas. So how do we communicate with the parents in that?
Great question. Either whether it's the choice, as Ms. Rendon talked about, or whether it's lack of accessibility to the app. There's 2 things. So if they're coming in late, like they're picking up your kid late, it's transportation's responsibility to call them or text them, whichever they prefer to do that through the Parent Link app. If they're leaving school, the actual school site does it because the school knows when they left the school building. So we still do the old-fashioned Parent Link, which isn't that old-fashioned, but Parent Link to make sure we can do either a text or a call, whichever they prefer, to each one of those individuals.
Thank you. And along with Here Comes the Bus, is there the bus, like, just in case the bus broke down or the bus was in an accident, or, just saying.
It is, and it's more robust as part of that system. I don't know if I could steal that name from you. Yes, yes, ma'am.
So it informs the parent that the bus is broken down, and they could go and pick up the student on the side of the road, or they would have to wait until another bus, kind of.
They actually have to wait. There's some safety regulations that we have in not having kids picked up on the side of the road, with a few exceptions. But traditionally, we like to have the other bus come get them. One of the questions, to your point, Ms. Gray, when we're this short, is about what our people are doing. And sometimes you'll hear it from principals, hey, I can't get a hold of someone at transportation. If you have a CDL and you work at transportation, with the exception of the 6 people we just talked about, and even sometimes them, they're driving a bus. We have everybody that we can. All hands are on deck to make sure that they're on a bus and getting on there. So we're sacrificing a little bit of that customer service, for lack of a better word, because they are driving a bus. But most parents, I would think, would want their kid to be at school on time. And one of the things we've talked about a little bit, I want to mention one other thing before we close. As we do the recruiting classes, and we do that part of it too, we prioritize. We know which of our buses, they all have GPS on them. We know which of our buses are the latest to schools. So what we do when we graduate, because they don't have some of the same, we get to assign them where they need to go. We literally have a list of prioritizing. Hey, we know the latest bus right now is to Alonzo. That first driver coming out of the class is going to Alonzo. The next one is at somewhere in South Tampa. We choose and send them to those areas to make sure that we address the largest areas and largest gaps that are coming out. That's important for us to do. I mean, Ms. Hill and I struggle, same with Mr. Beekman and I, about getting anyone late to school. I mean, our job is to get them there efficiently, safe, and on time. And so it's a challenge, and it's a challenge for our drivers, and I've said it at board meetings, and I'll say it one last time to close out. The people that we have in transportation right now are working their tails off and doing overtime on a daily basis and doing everything they can. We want to recruit. We want to make sure we make processing quicker. All those things are priorities to us. But it is very important that we know that we thank the people that are there every single day. You guys have done that. Or you're in the process of doing that with Mr. Ayers and other people about negotiating money, because that's one way to thank them. But it's also the way that we treat them. And I know that a lot of the board members have seen them out at sites and have thanked them as they've come to that. That means a lot to our people, and it means a lot to me. So thank you for supporting our drivers. Thank you for supporting transportation. And having this workshop is a great opportunity for us to kind of highlight all the great work that happens. So thank you.
And real quick, one more thing, Pride Elementary, for Member Vaughn and Member Rendon's point, the car line, now that the bus pickup has been, reduced down to the 2 mile, that is just absolutely just mind blowing. If any of you board members have ever gone near Pride Elementary during pickup time, the car line goes all the way down the main streets. And parents have talked about the dangerous issues. They've brought that to our attention. And I know if Pride looks like that, there's many more schools that look like that too.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And as we close out, I'll hand it to Superintendent Ayers in a second. I just want to thank you, Member Vaughn, for your patience in bringing all of this and also serving on the TPO board, because it sounds like a lot of work. I want to thank you, Ms. Silva. Your passion and energy to keep kids safe is so evident from here. And for you, Laura, Ms. Hill, you've done a great job coming in here, working so hard in your leadership. And also, Mr. Farkas, you're doing a great job. This is probably one of the hardest things for us is transportation and how hard our bus drivers work. I think it's one of the hardest jobs in the district to get those kids in. They're the first to see kids in the beginning of the day, and they're the last ones to see kids. And they're also just the impact that they have on our kids is huge. So I just want to thank you. I'll close out with Superintendent Ayers has a couple comments, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chair Combs. I just wanted to thank you again, Member Vaughn. I think that's number 9 today. But thank you again. I appreciate, as we've moved to our workshops, the conversation that we're having. These workshops provide direction to the superintendent so we can take action. So I just appreciate, as we moved and we've had these workshops over the last few months, that it is true conversation, and I see it as an opportunity to provide me direction. My staff is always here, so we hear this input from you guys and then can make that call to action. I just wanted to state that we are very lucky to have a gentleman like Deputy Superintendent Farkas and Ms. Hill leading the charge here from our team. And Lisa, thank you for what you did this morning. We appreciate the partnership, but we are very lucky to have 2 individuals as Chris and Laura leading this charge for us. I'm extremely lucky, so thank you to both of you. And Lisa, thank you for being here.
And this meeting is adjourned.